Yeah. Okay. One last question for this.
Okay.
Regarding public spaces, most public spaces, for example, here in Manila, are just accessible to the 1% of the country's population. So, can we do something
Then they're
about
not
it, like the
public.
golf courses?
Oo nga, then
So,
they're not
yeah,
public
That's
ha,
not
kasi
Public.
basta
these
yata.
open
So, hindi siya
spaces.
public
Yeah,
kung
those are
1%.
private parks.
yeah, these green open spaces. So, di ba, we all want green open spaces. So, is there a possibility that they would also open it to public, like golf courses?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you cannot take golfers away from their golf courses, dude.
Okay. This is this is again really boils down to public sector and policy.
Yeah,
You
policy,
can never
correct.
take away something that's private property. That's their business
Ah,
because they did that.
so, so
So
if
at
I
the
were,
end of the day, there are public properties that are turned into private because they want, probably example, BGC, siguro, townships. I mean, nothing against townships, but there has to be ways to appropriate proper public spaces during these townships at least. Therefore, is it because our public sector and our leadership or government, which we are calling out now, I'm calling out now as well, um, are they able to manage this? I know we have money, guys. I don't believe we don't have resources in the Philippines. We have budgets. We have money. I know that. I don't think we are poor. No.
No, we're not.
So
yes.
so it's a
Yeah.
matter of we have the right resources, proper operations management to maintain and really adhere to that standard because managing parks, managing overhead for these costs a lot of money. But that is the responsibility of government because it is for the public
Public.
good. So that sense, we should pay our taxes so that we will be able to enjoy these, and that's supposed to be the traditional city model, you know. So
Yeah, we
yeah,
have we have NPDC, the National Parks and Development Committee. I think they just manage about how many sites, parks, or open spaces? Two, three yata, not even five.
I mean, there's a very simple problem with Metro Manila, right? The Metro Manila Development Authority does not do development. They do traffic
Development.
traffic control
Traffic
and
lang.
flood control.
okay, yeah,
If
and
you
it
take a
happens here. It happens here, Jonathan. Do you remember that? If you Jonathan studied in Cebu, so he has some.
yes, sir.
Remember that property by the provincial government across the golf course in Manila,
Ah,
beside
yes, sir. The one beside IT Park.
was an abandoned international school that was leased by the international school. They left already during the 90s and it was there already abandoned. And the trees are flourishing because if anyone untouched, any property untouched, nature will always come in, right? And that's the natural phenomenon. So imagine if we had a foresight, government, sorry for calling them out, but yeah, if they had the
Government.
foresight,
Yeah.
had the foresight to make that a park, it becomes a green belt, some sort. Okay, but we don't have that, and instead they want to sell it or lease it now, and it's leased by Philinvest, and it used to be leased by someone else. And then there was a bicker with the city mayor and the governor, and then that's why it wasn't developed at all. So see, these are things that I mean, I cannot ask a private developer or a private entity that to say, okay, donate your land for
Yeah.
it will not work unless you're really philanthropic, you know. But it will not work. It has to be government property. But government properties right now are being privatized. So that's where it's really something
No,
that
let's talk about a very tangible and immediate situation.
okay.
Boom, the golf course around Intramuros.
Exactly. Yes.
Why is it the damn golf course, right? Nobody even plays there.
Yeah, wala na.
Nobody
Yung
And
mga
I know
tournaments
for
na
a fact
natigil
that
na.
the mayor wants to turn it into a park, but then
Yeah,
it's not under his jurisdiction.
yeah,
It's
it's under
under
TIESA.
IA
TIESA.
or TIESA
TIESA.
or
TIESA.
yeah. So it's always like that. Like, oh, it's not my ano kasi it's his, and then it's his, and it goes around and around and
Jurisdiction.
around.
Yan.
Yeah.
Turuan.
I remember the transportation plan for Metro Manila. I think Julia Nebriha, she was telling me about it. Like she was trying to find out who was in charge. So and she went from like MMDA to NEDA, to
Neda.
DPWH, who pointed her back to MMDA, and it's going on and around.
Yeah. So it's really beyond us in this sense. Yung all of this, it's really beyond us. We're just pawns pagdating sa ganitong situation. And
But
it
we
takes-
need to keep on fighting at least. Diba?
Yes.
Yeah,
Cannot give up. Cannot give up.
correct.
do our part. We do our part. What I'm saying is, in this regard,
Exactly.
we have less of a power.
No, we do our part in spite of
Despite.
the problems and the barriers that are put in place, right?
We do our part regardless if others do not do their part.
Their jobs, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just harder, but that's it. That's the way it is.
Sama lang sa loob.
I just
Pero-
fear that. I just really fear that all the time. Of course, another political thing. I mean, we're gonna choose our leaders again in 2 years, so it just looks like it's going to be. There's gonna be a burnout for the private sector. There's gonna be a burnout in the professionals again, and we go back again to the same old story and rebuild as well as again. So that's where we kind of have that baggage in terms of. I hope we can still really do more sustainable aspects in terms of policy or really moving forward, improving our society.
But I think sometimes also there was this group that Judith of Blueprint set up among architects and some members of Congress. I don't know if you joined that, Bob.
Yeah, I think.
And it's really that they okay, so they set it up, but then if you hear it, they really don't know what's going on. And so I think what I'm trying to say is, like, us architects as professionals, we should not just give up, but actually we should actually try to be inside, working from the inside.
Yeah.
And we should actually encourage young people to go for that role. I mean, to be on the other side of the fence where they can actually make change happen in a different way also.
Yes.
And I think that's not stated enough, especially in our in our schools and in our training.
Yeah,
Yeah, communication is actually crucial. There's a lot of misunderstanding when there's a lot of assumptions, and it's not only government; it's organization sometimes. When even
Exactly.
inside the office, right? For me, I always tell my people that the miscommunication happens when there's a lot of assumptions. There's there was no common ground actually that was figured out, and there's that dialogue. So we actually have that part. I would say we are guilty of that as well, not doing our part in a way as well. We have to still nudge and nudge. I mean, we cannot give up on that. Yeah, I agree with that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not be complacent.
90% of our projects are government and related to government. So we focus on institutional projects and government, public spaces, parks. Sometimes we give it charity. Sabi nga ni Bak, it's not sustainable. We're still here. We're still here. But next year wala na kami. But because of our we had this park. We designed this whole park. It was already bidded out. It was Malcolm Square. It was already bidded out, and then the bidding failed. When we saw the design, we thought it was inhuman, and we thought that it would be better to design it just simply as an open public space. And so we sort of, in a way, volunteered and tried to convince the mayor back then to give us the chance to design it. And he surprisingly agreed. And we got the project through. And but although what happened was it was for charity because they said wala nang budget for babayaran ka na lang namin through the contractor. We told them no. No, we won't accept anything from a contractor.
Classic.
Yeah, so we just did the design and then they bidded it out and now it's completed. And now it's one of the public spaces right at the center of the city. And right now, if you take a look at in relation dun sa properties that are being given away to companies or being privatized, we had SM, that was a public property. That was around, I think, 14 hectares. It was probably given a bargain cost to SM. It was like, I think, 50 pesos per square meter back then. That was in the 80s. It's still cheap by Session Road standards, which is like 200,000 per square meter. And now the city is sort of in a way wants to rent out to SM or Robinsons our city market, which is around 30 hectares.
Oof.
Now there's this agreement with now I think initial what's that? Now SM is the company that they chose, the city chose to develop the city market into a mall. So their proposal was the basement would be the market, and then you have the upper floors as a mall. So now we have two SMs at the one at the top of Session Road and one at the top of at the bottom of Session Road. So kami na yung we will be the ones na aside from Olongapo, dalawa na yung SM namin na ano. So that's coming. It's just unfortunate that's happening. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say lang kasi you mentioned about charity and you actually created the charitable action to produce a very quality design space. I think it's an equity, it's an investment. As
Yeah.
much as you didn't get value from that for you right now, I know it's equity as a design value. That
Yeah.
in a way, it's for you to strategize next time that you can really say in terms of measures that design really works. So next
Yeah.
time, you better know how to, then that's where the monetary at least, that they will have the parang buy-in for you na, hey, design actually really works. Then from there, probably monetization. And I think that the EQF in a way as well, in a way, it puts sense that William, as our representative for our profession, has actually created that equity, no? For the military, for public servants to really see it. And I think that's where, from now on, there is the trust issue, the trust effect that
Trust.
creates the equity next time. So,
Yeah.
William, you have a very big responsibility, man.
It's a testament. It's a testament.
We can shift this charity thing into tangible action right now. So last
Yeah.
time I did a talk with UAPQC, right? Jonathan, how many members do you guys have here?
85 graduates.
85, right? I'm sure 85 architects or architecture graduates can adopt one public sector project and do it pro bono. And so imagine how many chapters UAP has if they just put their energy into more worthwhile things and each chapter adopted one government project. Then we'd have nicer public buildings, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
equity.
So
That's
that's what
actually,
I told UAPQC.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just one lang one per year.
And Will, if you have contacts in SM, can you tell them to
Meron yan.
You know, at the end of the day, it's okay. So like I mean, I've had this conversation with Chico. Chico is actually pretty intelligent man. And I mean, you cannot challenge his statement, which is it is not the private sector's role to build for the public space. I mean, it is really the government's role. And that's really, I mean, from a businessman's point of view, it does make sense, right?
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I mean, like, I think us, us caretakers of like society or what, we should advocate more. We should push our own local governments to do otherwise. And that's where we push, not from the other end, because of the other end is, of course, about the shareholder returns. Diba? Parang it's the wrong. It's like we're giving up on
Barking the wrong tree.
yeah, it's the wrong tree. Yeah.